Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. Ellie Scotney becomes the new EBU super-bantamweight champion. She defeats Spain's Mary Romero on a unanimous decision. I agree with the judges. The judges all had, I think one had it 97, 93, which is what I had it. Another guy had it 97, 94, and then it was 96, 94, I think. That was about right. I can't complain with any of those results, any of those totals, because I thought that although Mary Romero was a very, very good test for Ellie Scotney, definitely Ellie controlled the fight for reasons which I'll go into in a moment. But let's look at Mary Romero. I just said that I thought she was a good test for Ellie, and the reason is that she came in with 8 wins with 2 knockouts, 2 defeats, no draws. But her 2 defeats came against undefeated fighters in her first 3 fights. And she went on that run, that undefeated run, picked up the EBU title. This was her 3rd defence of it. And on the way, she beat 4 previously undefeated women. So this is a lady who, have gloves will travel. She's 37 years old, so she's a mature woman, mature in athletic terms. And she beat Amy Timlin. It's not her first. Well, actually, no. She beat Amy Timlin in Spain, in her home country. I was going to say it was not her first time in Britain, but I think it was actually. But Amy was one of the previously undefeated fighters, and this Mary Romero was a good test for Ellie Scotney. Don't forget, Ellie only had 5 previous fights, had won all of them, none of them by knockout. And I think from the word go, it became apparent that the styles there was a contrast in the styles. And this is why I think Ellie definitely won this fight. It's because her style was, as we know, we win fights not just with the fists, but with the feet. And I think her footwork was far superior to Mary's. I think Ellie had held her shape very well. She is an aggressive fighter, as is Mary. But whereas Mary is quite a ragged, come forward kind of fighter, throwing lots of, I always call them punches without thought, in the sense that I'm going to get into range and I'm going to sling a load of shots. But there's no real rhyme or reason to them, not necessarily. With Ellie, you get the impression that even though she's more economical with her footwork and with her punch output and selection, she's nevertheless, she's more of a thinking fighter. She has a higher ring IQ. And as a result of her more controlled aggression, as the rounds went on, and I gave, like I say, I think I gave 3 of the first 6 rounds to Mary, but looking back, that was probably a bit generous. Nevertheless, by the mid-rounds, Ellie had taken over, and she was kind of controlling Mary. Mary's footwork is very sort of erratic, hard to read, really. Her style is hard to read because there's a lot of sort of movement, a lot of jitterbugging, a lot of lunging in, throwing punches, like I say, punches without any kind of real rhyme or reason. Then she'll go on a little skip and use the perimeter of the ring, and then she'll jump back in again. And so it is kind of, if you're not prepared for this, and if you don't have the IQ to sort of time these lunges and kind of read between the lines and see what she's doing, it can be a bit off-putting. But fair play to Ellie Scotney. She stuck to her game plan, kept her shape, stuck to her boxing. She wasn't trying to hurt Mary, but she was clocking her seriously. Occasionally she would move in, and Mary's unconventional style would get the better of her. Mary might land a big overhand right or something, but at no point was she hurt. But by the middle rounds, Ellie's discipline and consistency was beginning to tell tales, I think, and Mary became increasingly ragged and a little bit more reluctant, to jump in and throw punches. She actually threw a few punches that were well out of range, sort of rounds about, I think it was the 7th, 8th round. And there's no doubt that in the second half of the fight, Ellie Scotney, I gave her all those rounds. Or no, did I give her? No, probably I certainly gave her the last 4 rounds anyway. So I think I did 97, 93. And yeah, like I say, looking back on it, probably 3 rounds was a bit generous to give to Mary. Maybe 2 would have been better. But what I find about these women's, I've said it so many times before, what I find about women's boxing is these 2-minute rounds are so difficult to score, because the way I always score fights, I've said before, is 3 minutes. If it's the men's, who wins the first minute, who wins the second minute. If it's 1 each, who wins the third minute? You give the round to the person who wins the third minute. You can't do that with the 2-minute rounds. So probably, and both these women were aggressive. Normally the shorter rounds suit the aggressor, but both these women were aggressive. But anyway, Ellie Scotney is the EBU champ. She's now 6-0. All 6 of her wins have come on points. She doesn't appear to have much pop, but she's certainly got some very nice skills. And I really like the way she holds her shape, and her discipline is very good. And what would you expect? She's trained by Shane McGuigan, who I think it's really paying dividends, that match up there. So she's onwards and upwards. Maybe a defence of the EBU title, then onto world level. I don't know. Well, maybe just to jump to world level. I don't know. But whatever it is, she's 24 years old. Her future looks very bright. For Mary Romero, she talked about how proud she was to be EBU champ. She wanted to win it for, her proud nation. She's very proud of being Spanish. She's got 2 children. She wanted them to be proud of her. They can be proud of her. This is a 37-year-old woman who's won the EBU title, defended it successfully twice. That takes some doing. That takes some doing. So what did you think? Did you see the fight? It's on the undercard of the Katie Taylor fight. So I'll be reviewing that later. Leave your comments below if you got any. Hit the subscribe button. Jab that like button. Much love to you. Thanks for your time as always. We'll speak again soon, and bye-bye for now.